Welcome to NoCode Data and AI. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as turn on the notification bell so that you can get notified every time we post a video or go live. Uh, Today, we're starting a new series, IntelCraft Weekly. Join us as we explore the craft of leveraging OpenAI and other LLM for business, seamlessly integrating, text, generative AI, and GPT for robust solutions, deploying ChatGPT-like apps for private data, going towards a repeatable playbook for creating intelligent platforms. The co-organizers for this event are Rahul and Nick. If you would like to give a talk, please reach out to us here or through the email on the previous screen. If there's anyone new that would like to say hi, what brought you here, or what you hope to get out of this, drop something in the YouTube chat. And please don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as turn on the notification bell so that you can get notified when we post a video or go live. A few simple rules. If you have a question, please ask it in the channel. I'll make sure that gets redirected to Rahul during the question portion of the session. And be polite and courteous, of course, and share what you know. Here at Anant, we design, build, and manage global real-time data and analytics platforms surrounding Cassandra, Spark, and Kafka. And if anybody has any job offers, you're looking for a job, please drop links. We're happy to promote hackathons, meetups, conferences, or classes. And with that, I will pass to Rahul. Thank you, and here we go.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. Hey guys, I know on our NoCode Data and AI channel, we've taken a break. Just want to let you guys know why. We started off last year with intention of looking at the industry and seeing what would be useful for people, specifically in the world of business. And there's so much changing every day. It still is every day, I think, but now I feel like there are patterns that are emerging that we can rely on. I feel more confident that the recommendations that we make here are likely usable for you in the business world for sure. Nick, actually, you have been working. A big part of your work has been in integrating AI technologies. So it's really cool that you're going to be part of at least being a co-host here. I'm curious, Nick, in your last year of working with AI GPT stuff, what have you found is what's working, what's not working, and what is yet to be determined? You're on mute.
Thanks, Rahul. We are doing this live, so great question. I think one of the things that's working best is still chat interactions, text generation. These are all working spectacularly. What is still in progress is finding ways to use the chat responses that people get. My team has worked a lot in retrieval augmented generation, and that has generally been very, very successful. I think the area where there's still a lot of work to be done is with agent and multi-agent architectures. One single chat stream going back and forth can be useful for a single user, but in the bigger context of where this industry is going, I definitely see sort of group chat between a combination of agents and human users as sort of where the next step is.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would agree with you. Though what's out there seems to be not as initially advertised. I think when we get into some of the multi-agent topics deeply, we'll realize that just like, well, I'll take it back. It's not even just like how the frameworks were early, in the early days were really, rudimentary. I still think the frameworks are still pretty rudimentary in that people complain that they're slow or it's hard to put it into production. And the multi-agent stuff is just like one edge over being a research paper. It's like a proof of concept that, hey, we can do multi-agent. So, that being said, let's get right into it. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Raul.
I'm sharing the right screen. There we go. Okay. Let me know if that's coming through.
That is now coming through great.
Okay. So, look, I decided to call this thing IntelCraft Weekly because I was trying to come up with a better word for creating intelligence. And the other words are AI integration, machine learning, which again is very, very, loaded, or LLM or generative AI. And again, it's very, very loaded. The reality is that we're using a lot of different technologies to create this intelligence, specifically in business. It's not just AI and ML. It's not just LLMs. It's a combination of software technologies, data technologies, DevOps, data ops, and there is a consistency that we can achieve if we are looking at it as a craft, right? There's a difference between an art and a craft. A craft is something that it can be taught to somebody else, and then they can create another, like a table. Carpentry is a craft. You can teach somebody how to make a table, and that table instruction, if somebody else is given the same instructions, they can make the same table. Art is slightly different. Art is about uniqueness, and technically there is a lot of art in software development. But when we're talking about intelligence, the challenge right now is the craft part, because the AI is unpredictable sometimes. Well, you can make it predictable, but the quality isn't as good, right? The temperature of an LLM. But that predictability, while getting good results, it should be a craft. And what that means for business is that they can rely on the AI that is being assembled together, as they can, rely on a person or a team of people. In the business world, there are lots of different choices for integrating LLMs and generative AI. Today, I'm going to focus on open source, enterprise OpenAI GPT integration. And to open the whole topic,
Apologies about that, Raul. Keep going.
and to, do I have to repeat everything?
No, everything has been recorded to YouTube.
Oh, okay. So in the focus of open source, enterprise OpenAI AI integration, that's just the technical details of what is possible today. But I want to open it up, the whole topic of IntelCraft today. What is creating intelligence? And I'm going to set out some goals for us, 2 goals specifically, and how we can measure that, so that each week when we iterate towards those goals, we can ask ourselves, are we moving towards objective 1 or objective 2? LM and GPT stuff is not hype like Bitcoin. A lot of people still believe it's like hype. And honestly, like the hype part is still there, but I feel like people can rely on it, that it's going to be in your job in the near future. So what? So what? If it's not hype, then so what? So the so what is that, okay, we need to now manage this process. We need to manage this creation of intelligence, like it's our job. I've said this several times. The future is going to be in building or managing robots, right? And the robots are going to do the work. And this is IntelCraft. Managing and building robots is IntelCraft. A shout out to our customers who are kind of like our sponsors because they allow they allow us to have some time to learn new things and share. Planning a updated version of the OpenAI bootcamp. We've gotten a lot of good feedback from people on what they want next. Renaming it from LLM Inside Bootcamp to IntelCraft Bootcamp, and slight change to the agenda of the bootcamp, which is that we're not just looking at no code and code options in terms of a stack, but the whole world of tools that are out there. And instead of using a starting template of code just to build an app to talk to your data, what we'll do is we're going to integrate existing tools to do it much quicker. A lot of new technologies that we've added, specifically, Haystack by DeepSet, Super Agent. There's tons more, but more to come. And if you're interested, just go to kono.io/bootcamp and fill out a form. Today, we're going to talk about crafting intelligence, what it means. We're going to look at a preview of the LLM toolkit for the enterprise, specifically on the open source area. And then we're going to zoom in on open source ChatGPT clones. And I'll give a demonstration of one that we use in our company and seems to work pretty well. Before LLM engineering, machine learning was very, very hard. And this picture is traditional machine learning, training, management of the real-time and batch training, and then there's evaluation. Now it's much easier. And this is a picture of the data engineering required to create knowledge bases that AI can use in combination with traditional software engineering using an app and an API. This process was what everybody worked on last year in 2023. They worked on different ways to get data into a vector database, or they made tools that made it easier to interact with different data sources, whether it's a vector database or a regular database or an API. And some folks created apps. So now this realm, from soup to nuts, there are open source projects available at each level, whereas last year they weren't really there. And also not just open source projects. There's lots of commercial projects, lots of commercial tools that are out there. Don't want to forget that. Question I want to ask, and I don't necessarily have all the answers, but this is my goal here is to ask these questions so that we can answer them by finding answers out, talking to different people in the industry, finding out what other folks are doing in open source or in research. So how do we execute business processes with people? This is a business challenge. How do we execute intelligent business processes with AI and agents? Well, it's actually a business challenge and a technology challenge, because the act of designing business processes doesn't really go away. Just because you have AI doesn't necessarily mean that you can throw a bad process at it, right? And then how do we standardize the creation of intelligent processes? Let's say we know how to do it. How do we standardize it? And then how do we standardize the stack for future change? Because technology is going to change. There's going to be better AI models. There'll be better, fine-tuning processes. There may be infinite context length models that come out, right? How do we standardize the future? Standardize the stack for a future change. Some mantras that I'm going to pause it here, and the don't reinvent the wheel mantra we have at our company and I for a long time. That's, I think, part of the reason why we're good is we don't want to build stuff that other people are building. Like, let them do it. Let them do the hard work. We'll use it. We'll borrow it. We'll lease it. We'll buy it. Don't really need to build stuff. Meeting the user, the platform, and the AI where they are at. So there are users they use a certain app. Do they need to use a different app? There are existing platforms that do what they do really well. Do we need to replace them? Probably not. We're not going to replace QuickBooks because we have AI. QuickBooks still does what it needs to do, right? A database like a relational database, we're still going to need to use a relational database. It's not like that's going to go away. And then the AI, it's currently improving. The quote unquote quality of AI is improving, and that gauges basically how it does on certain human level tests, right? They do like a legal or medical or coding exams. And right now the standard is OpenAI, right? OpenAI is the top. It ranks like 80 or 90% on certain human evaluation things and even better on other ones. And other LLM models are coming out that are either available, like Gemini from Google or Llama 2 from Facebook, or open ones that are available, like Mistral is another one. There's another one called Smog that came out that is better in a certain area or certain size of a model. AI is going to continue changing. So where are these AI in terms of intelligence capabilities? We need to work with that, right? Let's see, building for continuous change. This is always the case in a good technology management, that you design something knowing that technology is going to change, knowing that the business is going to change. So how do you design something and build something knowing that you're going to have to change it in the future? And it starts with obviously the design of the whole platform, but also goes down to the actual code and the schemas eventually that are going to be powering the platform. What is a business process? A business process is timeless. It doesn't matter what technology is available. It doesn't matter who is doing the process. A business process can be executed consistently if a team member is trained on it. A business process can be executed consistently if a team has several people trained on the different parts of the business process. A business process is what enables companies like Starbucks and Walmart to scale as a business, which then in turn, when you add technology, allows them to scale with technology. A business process can be different for different companies. But the reason I'm saying this over and over again, what is a business process, is that just because an AI is available to write code for you doesn't mean that you throw away everything else we know from business and management and technology, because what we tell the machine is what the machine is going to do. Better than writing software, when we write prompts, what we're really doing is we're taking these business processes that we have and we're converting them into instructions for an AI. Really isn't that much different than if we were to tell a person, hey, this is how we do this process. Here's the input that is expected, or sorry, here's the input that you should expect, and here's the output that we expect. A business process can span different people across different departments. A business process can have sub-processes that are executed in different parts of different departments. A business process has information needs across different users in different departments. And a business process can run on one or many systems. This is just a tool we use to inventory people, process, information, and systems at a high level when we're looking at system design in general. This has nothing to do with whether or not we're using AI. It's just, hey, there's a particular system already in place. Lots of different platforms are involved. Let's understand what's going on. What is the information across these different departments or processes? And I'll come back to this and why is this important later. And if you zoom out, the same approach, which we call the modern enterprise approach, is about looking at the whole business and understanding people, process, information, and systems across the different responsibility areas delivering products and services, sales and marketing, operations and infrastructure, research and development, finance and accounting, leadership and management. Most small businesses, for example, they'll have the ability to, or not the ability, they will know that they're going to have a way to get customers, which is sales and marketing. They know they have a way to deliver value to the customers, and they know they have a way to pay people. More mature organizations, they start to think about human capital management, research and development of new technologies to make the business processes better, and separating, the delivery of products and services from the actual engine running the company. So what I want to show here and pay attention here is that if we have a structured approach to understanding the landscape of people, process, information, and systems, as a human being, we can start to see these patterns of how these processes are connected together. Where is information being stored that may be redundant or has to be synchronized? What are the different systems we're using? We can even look at this and say, do we need all of these systems? Right? And if we as human beings can do that, then AI, given the same information in a consistent way, can also do that. We also have, in the data world, we have a playbook for an open data platform, which is, how do we design the system? What is the evaluation process to choose different components of the stack? And then how do we execute on it, the architecture, the engineering, and the operations? We're taking this knowledge, and I'm focusing the same general approach on a different domain, which is IntelCraft, which is the creation of intelligence. And thankfully, we're going to be able to leverage a lot of this stuff because people still need a user interface. We still need to host applications on the cloud. We still need different databases to manage a software stack. We're still going to have DevOps and DevSecOps, right? But we do need a new word, and I'm calling it IntelCraft, which is the craft of creating intelligence in computing. And as a verb, it's designing and building intelligent processes. Note that I'm not saying that it's creating intelligence in general, like, biological intelligence. I'm specifically saying computing. And secondly, I'm saying intelligent processes and not software or apps, because the process is meta. It's above the stack. It's creating a process that can run within people, within computing, between people and computers. I don't want IntelCraft to be focusing on just the technology. It's really, how do we create intelligent processes across people and computers? These are my loose OKRs, if you will, for IntelCraft. So, but there's really two main goals: create a playbook for creating and managing intelligence, and automating the process of building intelligence using the playbook. I'm starting out with this, can we create a complete picture, the knowledge? Let's gather all the knowledge about this and have a process to do that consistently. That playbook would then continue to build on that knowledge base, and it allows us to choose tools and technologies, right? Having a framework, a reference architecture, so that we can make decisions on these tools in a consistent way, and an approach to manage this critical information ongoing. That's my goal, is to create this playbook that we can use, that you guys can use, that anybody can use to do this consistently, right? The other goal, which I'll give you guys previews of over time, it's what we're working on in the background, is automating the process of building intelligence using the playbook. I've already started on a language, which I'll preview today, which is, it's a structure to human language. It's not another computer language. It's just a way to think about structuring how we speak to the AI to help us execute on these things consistently. And you could say it's prompt engineering, but it's really about
managing prompts in a certain way to execute on very, very complex systems consistently. And then an engine, an agnostic engine that uses this management language, which I'm calling manage AI or manage AI, manage AI. I don't know, whatever takes off. But for me, it's about management. It's not necessarily just for code generation, right? There's tons of code generation tools out there. I'll show you that. It's about creating and managing a system consistently. Here's just a tip of the iceberg of what we have in terms of the complete picture. This is just open source. And SaaS/cloud tools are a whole different ballgame. It's probably going to be, I don't know, 4 or 5 times bigger than this, because there's a lot of people that take some of these open source tools and they go make apps and agents that you can just buy, that you can just use. And we'll cover that. I'll get that in this diagram. But for right now, we're starting with open source because I feel like it's the most trustworthy for an enterprise to say, yeah, I can host this code in my cloud. I can trust this code because I can see what it does, right? There are essentially 4 or 5 layers, and there will probably be more. So there's the app layer, which users use, that human beings use. There are automations and autonomous agents, which could be used by users, but they could also just be running in the background. And the way that people interact with these automations and autonomous agents and agents in general is through chatbots or through other user interfaces. There are frameworks and libraries, AI engineering framework, LLM framework, you name it, whatever you want to call it. Frameworks, I would say, are like a starting point to do agents or to do chatbots. Retrieval augmented generation, RAG frameworks. And then libraries are more fundamental. For example, TaskWeaver is a library. Prompt Engine is a library that you can use in other frameworks. When we go one level, deeper, we would consider infrastructure layer things, and that would be databases, vector databases, cloud, all of the platform as a service or infrastructure as a service layer. The infrastructure layer also would include databases and vector databases, search indexes. And though most people would put the model execution under infrastructure, I've separated it out. The LLM ops of either using somebody else's model or tuning your own is technically one level deeper than the infrastructure, because that is what's really powering everything. It's without that infrastructure, we don't have the ability to do models, but without the models, none of this stuff actually matters. And then, the categories, and this is going to grow. So for example, in the app layer, I've just started out with no-code applications, open chatbot, ChatGPT clone applications, and then a different category for things that are open source that you can put on your phone or your desktop. There's a use case for that, obviously. And then the automations, just 2 categories right now, and they'll probably get split up into specific subcategories. But there's autonomous agents and code generation. Code generation is surprisingly for me the biggest area of open source autonomous agents I've seen out there. Now, these code generation tools and these autonomous agents, they're using frameworks that are out there. They're using libraries. They're using different vector databases. And some of these apps, they could be using these autonomous agents in the back. So this is not this runs on top of this, this runs on top of this, this runs on top of this. All of these tools are related. They're related in ways where they could all be sharing a certain framework. They could all be sharing a certain vector database. They could all be compatible or work well with a particular model. All that knowledge, we're going to put that in a website. Well, first in a graph, a knowledge graph, but eventually a searchable website where we're vetting each of these to say, yeah, this tool is, actually working well with this vector database, not just because it has it in its requirements.txt, which is like a dependency management for the packages, which is a good signal, but it's not, until we actually verify that the tool works, we can't say that it works well. And that is going to be the biggest hurdle for me, is making sure we're choosing the right tools to evaluate. Luckily, thanks to the YouTube universe, there's a lot of you guys out there that do cool demonstrations of these apps where I can, by proxy, say, yeah, that probably is good enough for me to say this is going to work out for the enterprise, right? So I'm not going to go through every single one. Our team just doesn't have the capacity right now to evaluate all of these tools tomorrow. So we're going to rely on other people's blog posts and tutorials, and YouTube videos to, yeah, this looks like it's going to work. And we're going to put all those things together in the same place. So when you're, for example, looking at LibreChat, which I'm going to show you, you will also have the 30 different resources that we felt are good enough for you to bank on that tool, to bank on that technology. This is a preview of the Manage AI or Manage AI language schema. It's really not more than an idea with some basic execution as a proof of concept, but I'm not going to go into this too much. But what I'm trying to show here is that there is this idea that in human language, we can define the knowledge for an agent or a set of agents. So there can be a core knowledge for an agent. There can be a contract between the creator of the agent and the agent. And then if there are a team of agents, there can be a team contract. And then these other items down here are, where is the existing knowledge beyond this to incorporate? And then there's alignment, which is more related to super alignment or alignment, as in making sure that there are specific human interests that are defined so that the AI not only is aligned with our contract, but also with a general purpose human alignment of making sure that it's not going against our wishes. The schema is, again, a work in progress. I analyzed, different programming languages, and I know a lot of programming languages. And what I was trying to come up with is, why is it that we have things like SQL really, really useful? And SQL is used in every different database these days, right? It's not just used in relational databases. It's used in graph databases. It's used in NoSQL databases. And I'm not saying that we need to have an SQL-like language to work with AI, but the idea that it's a simple enough thing that people can learn. And the goal for describing the language for the schema is that this allows us to have predictable execution of certain things, like the definition of a persona, the definition of a process, the definition of how we manage information. And when we are defining an agent, it's all in English with some overrides of what's in the schema. So this is completely experimental. None of this stuff may be there next week. But I just want you to understand that this is the problem that I'm working on to solve the larger problem of IntelCraft, which is, how do we do this easier and easier over time, and it's consistent. But the same practices we need, the patterns and practices we need as human beings, we need to get those things together, right? So that's part one. Objective one is, let's get our shit together. Let's get our knowledge together on how to do this consistently. And then part two is, okay, we're going to have a way to do it on a repeatable manner. Let's zoom down. Let's talk about the enterprise and why open chatbot or open ChatGPT clones are so popular. Until ChatGPT, GPT technologies were pretty much available only in content generation, like blog generation tools like Jasper or Writer or things like that, right? They were pretty good. They're okay. But you had to be a person that was involved in a job like blog writing to find use in it, right? And you really needed to have this kind of like goal of super optimizing your life to be a little bit better than your competition. When ChatGPT came out, it made AI accessible to everybody because everybody's used to texting their friends. They're used to talking to their coworkers on Slack. And a simple interface basically became very, very useful, so useful that they grew to like 100 million users in a month, right? And that interface is copied by other SaaS companies that say, oh, you know, we're going to allow you to connect your data and then you can talk to your data. There's a ton of those apps that you can pay for. But there are also tons of open source applications that you can install on your infrastructure and do the same thing. Upload your PDF and talk to it, right? Docs GPT is one of those tools. Private GPT is another one of those tools. There are other tools like DAnswer that are allowing you to connect more information. Again, these are all open source. Some of these chatbot or ChatGPT clones are actually just a user interface that can be used with any model, not just with ChatGPT. And you can take it and you can customize it. So they're not really an app per se, but they're a toolkit to create chat user interfaces with AI. Other ones have other cool features like templates and agents that you can quickly create. And this is not even the full list. Here's another, set of ChatGPT clones, and there's more. And as I said, this is going to be a work in progress. We're going to keep adding new tools to this toolkit. I would say that looking at all of these, couple of things. One, there are varying degrees of maturity, not just in these chat apps, but overall, varying degrees of maturity. Lots of folks did 2,000 commits in a month back in May of last year, and then they just stopped. Why have I included some of those in here? Because they're really good. Like some of them are really good. The person just stopped working on it. Maybe they got hired by OpenAI. I don't know. Or they got hired by somebody else. I don't want to discount apps that don't have a maintainer on this original inventory. When we get into choosing which ones we would use for a business today, we're going to have a much more difficult sieve to separate the wheat from the chaff. And part of it's going to be how robust is the community of users? How often do they commit to this? What vector databases does it support? How easy is it to deploy? Do they have instructions to do it on Docker and Kubernetes, right? And each of those criteria will be different. So for example, for the chat apps, it'll be slightly different from, let's say, the vector databases or the frameworks. So before I go into the takeaways, I do want to demonstrate one app that we've been using and use it in a way that a business would use it as a business process, right? And that is called Libre Chat. Libre as in Libre. And we started using it because the cost of buying paid ChatGPT for all of our team members was going to be ridiculous. So what we did was we decided to use an open source tool that basically clones ChatGPT. And it actually has some cool features that ChatGPT doesn't have. So you can have OpenAI, Google, Bing, and you can connect to ChatGPT plugins, and you can also use Anthropic. We've connected an enterprise key for everybody's, but if a user wanted to, they could use their own key. Or like right now, if I had a Bing key, I could set it up and I could use it. All right. It also allows me to choose the different models and set different parameters, including the system prompt, and change, for example, the temperature so that it's very, very creative, or give me only one answer or two answers, things like that. I was actually demonstrating this to our team earlier, where we have a prompt that we have written to take an idea and to create requirements from it that is consistent with our approach, which is we take an inventory of people, process, information systems. We then take that as an input into the design and architecture for interface software, data, and platforms. And when we have these two sets of knowledge, basically the inventory, the requirements, and the architecture, we're in a place to go and build these things out. Well, AI can also do that for us. And what I eventually want our team to do is to have prompts for every single, set of the processes, so that theoretically, it would follow our step-by-step process to create the work in the same way that we create the work. Okay. And it's a different way of looking at it than I'm just going to tell ChatGPT, I want code for this little thing, and it's going to give me something. We're basically using the step-by-step approach to prescribe or to give guidance to the AI to do the work that we need. Now, if you think about this as just one process, right? Creation of software is one process. There are other principles that we may have in how we collect these inventories, in principles in terms of our design, right? Those knowledge bases can add more weight to the way we pick one database or one technology over the other. Right now, this was just a rudimentary exercise to show that having this prompt, we can automate one business process of collecting the requirements, right? So all of this right here was created with one simple prompt. And there was the next follow-up prompt, which is to go ahead and start to create the code for it. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to go and test this for our team members. But what was interesting was being able to have it describe a diagram of the system for what I was trying to do. And I'll bring it up here. And this is actually, I'll just copy and paste it again, but basically part of it was create a mermaid diagram, and it basically made this diagram. And actually, what I'll just do is, right, slightly different view of this. It is not pretty, but the work that this machine did for us, given the right instructions, if we tuned it and kept changing our prompts, our reusable prompts, if we kept having a standard knowledge on how to do things, then we could start to rely on this AI to create information for us that we could then use to build things. And eventually the AI could actually use that to build things. And that is what the future of IntelCraft is. It's how do we manage consistently the instructions, the prompts? How do we manage consistently the knowledge base for a particular organization or a team? And how do we execute this in a step-by-step sequential process to come up with, from basically English, a complete platform? And then if we change the instructions, it will change the system. It won't need to rebuild it. Right now, the problem with generative AI is, and there are code generation tools that are trying to solve this in just a pure code perspective. Whereas, I have a piece of code and I can say, make this change, and it will basically rewrite it for me. It is more possible as a copilot, like GitHub Copilot, to do that. The larger problem is I've got 5 different user interfaces. I've got 20 different APIs. I've got 5 different databases. I've got a deployment on Kubernetes, a deployment on, Terraform. Having the machine be able to understand the full picture of the complete platform and be able to make a modification in the same way that a human being would, that is the goal. And before that, given the complete picture of what's needed, it's able to do a lot of thinking in the same way that we would be doing our own thinking, right? Because we would give it the knowledge that we use, and it would create the platform in a way that we would create it. So what do we do after the machine does all of our work? And my joke is that we're going to have to learn how to stare at our screens while the robots do our work. And the truth is that maybe not so much staring screens, but rather thinking about new challenges and new problems to solve, and maybe getting better and better at how we communicate to our counterparts, our AI counterparts. I'll just go through the takeaways and we can wrap it up. There we go. So some takeaways, and these are our mantras, right? Don't reinvent the wheel, and don't just buy or build it either. Assemble the right combination. That would be the biggest thing that I would like you guys to walk away with. There are so many options in open source and SaaS that you don't have to pick one or the other. You likely can make something that's a combination of one or the other, or both. Understand people and AI needs. Right now, users have different skills and capabilities. They use different tools. There are existing tools and platforms in a business. There are AI capabilities. So if we consider where these things are at, we can create the commercial value by creating agents and automation that improve existing things while understanding their limitations. For example, we use Jira. Jira is, for us, the bane of our existence. All of our work is managed through Jira. Let's say we start using our process to create requirements. We're still going to use Jira to put the task in a ticket for a person to verify if the AI created the code properly. Or we start out with just creating Jira tickets, and people do that all the time, right? They use AI to create a Jira ticket, the acceptance criteria, the description, and so on and so forth. But we don't have a reason to replace Jira right now. Or for example, our invoicing software, right? Maybe we can have the AI look at data from our Jira and do the step-by-step process of what is the billable versus non-billable. And actually, I don't think even need AI to just take data and put it into the invoicing software. But there may be an opportunity for it to just do a sanity check to say, hey, the client's budget was this much and we spent this much. Maybe we hold off on just sending an invoice that is 1x or 2x the amount. Let's flag this invoice, for example, right? So there's judgment calls that the AI can make for us, but there's no reason to replace the invoicing system. It does what it does really well, right? And here's an analogy, right? The neurons in our brain and the technology, or the how good our eyes are, the sensors in our eyes, right, are different than the sensors in our fingers and what our fingers are capable of. So similarly, I think the right combination of intelligent processes is to use good technologies for the deep thinking alongside dumb technologies. What we say dumb technologies, just standard IT technologies to do the things they do already really, really well. And finally, build for continuous change. Good design makes things future ready. And what I mean by good design, it's like a business process. Coming back to the business process. If you have a business process that's good, technology will make it better. AI is going to make it better. AI can help execute it better. If you have a bad business process, it's going to make it crappier. But you take a good business process design, and if you have a good system design, then you can change things about your system without affecting the overall longevity of the platform. For example, databases that have been in place for the last 30 years, relational databases, are still being used. NoSQL databases are relatively new. They didn't replace those databases because the design of a relational database is different from a non-relational database. Good APIs that were built on relational databases, when they needed to be scaled up, they started using non-relational databases, but because the APIs were designed well, they didn't have to change themselves. The interface did not have to change. More updates are coming. If you want to take part, please like and subscribe. Leave comments. We're going to revamp our Discord to have more conversations offline. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to you, Nick.
Thank you, Rahul. Sorry. Thank you for this talk. It was pretty interesting. I had a couple questions come up for me while you were going through this. I think one of the first ones is about different ecosystems of LLM. To me, a lot of the LLMs themselves are relatively, equivalent. But I wonder, sort of from the top level view, if you can make any value judgments about the different ecosystems of LLMs.
So I'll repeat your question to better understand it. You're saying, these LLMs are not all created equal, although they kind of work the same. How does changing from one LLM to the other affect your ecosystem? Is that the question?
No, not quite. I sort of think about there being this ecosystem around like OpenAI. There is an ecosystem around the Azure world,
Sure.
and then there's this broader open source ecosystem. Is there some sort of compare and contrast that you have in your experience? No.
Yes, that's a good question. So OpenAI led in its leading. The OpenAI API format, the completion interface, if you will, and they have a completion interface, they have a chat interface. That is the gold standard. So if you have another LLM, there are tools that wrap those LLMs to make the API exactly the way that the OpenAI one is. There are open models that you can host in your own. There are frameworks and libraries that they wrap those models and they expose a REST API that is exactly the same as the OpenAI API, right? So that gold standard of, well, this is what a chat API looks like, that's pretty much set. No going back from that, right? Then we have other standards. For example, there are papers that people write on how to do chain of thought, how to do React, right? And different frameworks then implement those papers, those ideas into code. LangChain, for example, has a library of these templates of these prompts. You can use LangChain to do everything, or you can use LangChain as a library, right? So LangChain becomes a standard that you start to use for certain things. And LangChain is a hub with a lot of spokes connecting to a lot of different things. So it has an ecosystem. Just like OpenAI has an ecosystem of a lot of libraries and apps that use just OpenAI API, LangChain is a hub that connects all of these models in a consistent way. And even if it doesn't use an OpenAI compatible, interface, LangChain makes the interface exactly the same, right? And so your ecosystem problem goes away because there are players like Llama Index is another one where they have connectivity to a lot of models and they have a lot of connectivity to vector databases, which is another issue altogether, where the question about can one model have a better ecosystem than the other, it's been commoditized. And it all began because somebody leaked the Llama 2 model, and that original Llama model, excuse me, not Llama 2, and then that Llama model became all of these different models that are out there now, fine-tuned models. And when that happened, people needed a way to talk to these LLMs. And so the question was, well, how do we talk to these LLMs? Like, why reinvent the wheel? Just copy the interface that OpenAI has and just use that. That's all you need. And so there is no ecosystem problem. If it works with OpenAI, it pretty much works with everybody else. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. It's interesting too. I think the like main outcome here, which is that OpenAI is the gold standard. That's a really important piece of information that I suspect most people already have. But then the fact that it has been so successful that the like competitor ecosystems are literally just like duplicating the interfaces so that people can use them in it. I think that does bode pretty well for the sort of the future of these other, ecosystems.
The other thing to note is another standard that OpenAI has set. So OpenAI has used the OpenAPI spec to create plugins. So when you want to create a plugin for ChatGPT, you use the OpenAPI spec, right? But that spec has a design that ChatGPT made, that OpenAI made, for how to make a plugin that works with ChatGPT. That standard is also now a standard. So you can make plugins that can be used with like the Libra chat that I was showing. You can use somebody else's ChatGPT plugin with Libra chat without having to use ChatGPT.
Yeah, I was going to point out that there are some great diagramming plugins in that ecosystem that will literally create the full diagram for you, not just the instructions for it as well.
Yeah. So that's and the Open API, there's actually a project that's in the toolkit called Open API Pack. Anyways, it's a way to categorize and catalog all of the GPT plugins that are out there in an open way, so that if you are making a framework or you're using a framework like LangChain and you don't have a tool in your code, you can discover the tool from the registry. It will download it and it will talk to the correct API. So there's all these little things that are kind of coming out, which it's I don't know. It's like interdependent origination. Everything is connected to everything, and it'll continue to be connected to everything. The only other like universal standard that I've seen is that 99% of it's in Python, or I would say 90% it's in Python.
Yeah.
9% of it is in TypeScript or JavaScript. And then you have your 1%. And again, this is not really true numbers. I'm just making this bullshit up. But like, then there's maybe 1% in like C# and Go and people trying to be cool with Rust. And C++.
Yeah.
It's like,
the semantic kernel is a great example of that. They are trying to make some C# things happen, but they very quickly started saying, all right, we got to get Python in here as well.
Python and, hopefully TypeScript. LangChain went and had Python. Now they have TypeScript as well. I think Llama Index realized that they're losing out on people that are, random Next.js TypeScript developer has a job and their boss is like, I want AI. They can just do, npm install XYZ and start doing AI. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right. Because Python is traditionally in the data world. I know web developers that use Django, but honestly, like somebody who's making web apps today is using TypeScript and Node and React. If they can quickly install a library and make an agent, like that's a huge thing. I do want to say that all of this stuff is just string manipulation. It's just information, unstructured information that's getting parsed into more, or parsed, understood, and then created as other unstructured information. The fact that we can have AI create JSON is just it's an illusion that it's doing structured information. The illusion is because we have tools on our end that validate that JSON and say, yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you for doing what I asked you to do. But because it's just string manipulation and talking to a model via API, via REST API. That's why you can have it in TypeScript. That's why you can have it in Python. It's not doing any machine learning in Python or in TypeScript, although you could put machine learning in there. All the machine learning shit is happening at the model level.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there were just two tools mentioned in the chat, Merlin AI and Claude AI. You know,
Merlin
that
and
Claude.
yes. Yes. So Claude is you know, Anthropic's model, and I kind of showed that in the Libra chat. It's a model that is available that is very strong. It has a big not infinite, it has like 100,000 token context window. Claude is great. If you want to use it, you can use any of the stuff that I'm talking about with Claude. And if you need a wrapper, I think they have either an OpenAI compliant interface, or you can get a wrapper that does it. And then I am familiar with Merlin. It is in the toolkit. We'll get to that eventually.
Great. So we are at time. Thank you everyone for attending. Rahul, especially thank you for this chat. I'm going to end the stream now, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks so much. Take care, guys.
Hey, Rahul.